Hi, welcome back. I'm Chris Sikora, and I'm going to step you through exercise 26 in SolidWorks 2020. Now, exercise 26, as you can see on the screen, deals with structural steel and weldments. Now, there is a structures folder, some new tools in there. We're not going to go through that. We're actually just going to use the weldments area. And then we're going to create this using the 3D sketcher and put the weld beads in, end caps, gussets, and then we'll put it into a drawing and see how that all works with the cut list that it should generate. So let's begin. Let's go to New and Part. Now I know some of you are thinking, well, isn't this an assembly technically? Well, remember with part files inside SolidWorks, you could use them as an assembly. So, or you could break them out into an assembly. But we're going to go ahead and just, it actually automates things very nicely in this software. This is like one of the easiest Weldments utilities I've ever seen. Okay, so what we're going to do is to bring up the Weldments tab, just right click on any tab and go to the tabs and find Weldments and check that. Within a minute, your Weldments tab should appear. Just go ahead and click on it. And the first thing you'll see is 3D Sketch. Now, we haven't used 3D Sketch a whole lot in this advanced class. We used it once, if you remember, in exercise 7 in the intro class. But since then we haven't really used it, this is where it really shines. Okay, go ahead and click on 3D Sketch. Now you'll see not all the tools are available, as that was discussed in exercise 7. But let's go with the rectangle tools and find center rectangle. Hover up to the origin, click when you get the orange dot, and hit tab until you can see you get Z and X. So the tab key, remember, alters the plane. And just drag it out to where it fits and click. Now we're going to go ahead and add the dimension. So go to Smart Dimension. Now, by the way, in the training guide, if you go to vertanu1.com, you could actually open up the training guide and it shows you the parameters that you want to put in. That's the goal there. Okay, so we're 36 by 29 and a half. So 36 right here. And 29.5 here. Okay, and actually let's go with, I should have clicked on those two. I didn't want that to be vertical there. So I just went ahead and deleted that. There we go. Okay. All right, and you could see in my case, I must not have, it's not actually aligned. I was wondering one reason why I changed to 36. I guess I didn't have to do that. I was just concerned that it wasn't aligned properly. But in this case, I'm going to align this to the Z. And also align this. We want that to align to the X. There we go. All right, so we just wanted to make sure it wasn't tilting. Now we could go and click on the line tool. We're going to add to this. So click on this point right here and drag it straight down. Now, if you're getting ZX, we don't want it this time. So hit the tab key and just make sure you get XY. So it goes straight down because we're making the leg. And hit escape. Let's smart dimension that and make it 20 inches. Go back to the line tool and get on this edge and stay away from the midpoint, just maybe a little bit above the midpoint. Click and drag. We're going to make a gusset right here, or click on this edge here. And dimension the bottom point to the bottom of that leg, and that should be 8 inches. And then click on this angle and this line, and in between the two, drop in a 45-degree angle. And this is for a reinforcement beam. Okay, so now that we have all that, we're ready to go to the Weldments tab, and we could hit Rebuild. And let's click on the Weldments button. Now the Weldments button doesn't seem like it does much at first. It just drops in a Weldments folder in here, but you need to do that first. Then go to Structural Member, and under Standard, go to ANSI Inch, square tube. Notice they have C-channel, pipe, rectangular section. Make sure you was square. And then the sizes, it has a small library here, 3 by 3 by 0.25 is what we want to use. Now, notice there's groups here. Before we click on anything, the first one we don't have to worry about making a new group, but anytime you're sticking on one plane, you could stay in the same group pretty much. It's when you start veering off at different angles and such that you might want to create a new plane. And the reason why is because the trim tool doesn't automatically trim all the time if you do that. So you could avoid having to use the trim tool. Now the trim tool isn't hard to use, it's just that it's an extra step. So we try and avoid it when we can. And the trim tool works, it's up there. It works just by selecting surfaces of one beam to another, and then it will trim off that entity. But anyhow, let's go ahead and select this edge right here. Now you'll see we'll draw a profile, and then we'll extrude it the length. Go ahead and click on this next one here and go all the way around. Now by default, it will actually miter the corners. You might not want that. And the way to change that is there is an option right in here. You can click on each individual sketch, but the easiest one is just to click on that like magenta colored dot, like right here. Now you'll see there's 3 trim out order options. Okay, so let's click on N but 1. Now N but 1 in my case, it extends the front edge all the way to the left. That's what we want in this case. And also notice you could put in specific weld gaps and things like that. So you can get even more details. Hit the green check. Let's go clockwise. Go ahead and select this one right here. And if it's always going to be the opposite usually if you're trying to follow the same lead like in this side. So this will be N but 2. Hit the green check. Click on this point. It should go back to N but 1. Yep. Hit the green check. And this one, N but 2. All right. And hit OK. Now, if you don't have them exactly the same way, it's not the end of the world. Your end caps might have some issues because when you mirror the end cap over, you might have to just put it in manually, or you just made it wrong, period. You might want to fix it, but not a big deal. Okay, so now we've got those. Now it's time we're going to make the leg. Now remember, if you don't do a new group, it will make the leg, but it won't trim it. It will actually extend all the way from this point here down, and then you have to trim it later. So let's go to new group, select the leg, and see how it trimmed automatically for us. Let's go to new group because this is veering off at 45 degrees. Click on this. Now it actually gives us this diamond shape miter. Let's see if we want, let's say we wanted to just change that over here at the very bottom. Go ahead and type in 90. Oh, I'm sorry, not 90, 45. And it will rotate it. And so that might be an easier cut for some guys out in the shop. All right, now go ahead and hit the green check and we're done with those members. Later on, we'll mirror them over. So that's why we don't have to put them all in. Now, if it's not symmetric, of course, you would have to put them all in. But since all 4 corners are symmetric, we're in good shape. Now, we could also hide that 3D sketch. So right click on 3D sketch and click on hide. We no longer need to see it. Let's put a little foot pad under here, a piece of steel. So select this face and start a sketch. And this is just, look at this, we're just sketching inside here now. If we want to center it, I would recommend going with center line first and go from this midpoint to this midpoint right here. And then we establish a diagonal line, and we could go back to center rectangle and find the midpoint and drag this out. Let's go ahead and dimension it at 5 wide by, let's see, 4. Actually, we'll go with 5. But we don't want it to be square. Let's actually, it could be. It's just that I don't want it to be square. So I'm going to go with 4 here. Okay. Now, we want to put some holes in here if we wanted to secure it. We could also drill a hole in the center for a caster or something, whatever you're going to design into this. But let's go to the circle tool here, and right on this center line here, we could go ahead and draw a circle in. We'll go ahead and dimension that. And let's make that a 1/2 inch diameter hole for a bolt. And then we could position that from off this edge. And we'll just make it 0.75. Actually, it's a little tight there. We'll go with 0.5. All right, now we want to mirror that. So the best way to mirror it actually is just drawing 2 new center lines. So find the midpoint here, click, connect to the center point, and click over here to make that one across. So now we have center lines to mirror it across. So let's go ahead and hit escape, then select the circle, hold control, select that line there, and go to mirror entities. The order really doesn't matter. Go ahead and control select these two, and then the line right there. I accidentally selected something I didn't want. Let's hit escape there. Let's just try that again. This one here, that one there, and then that one there. And then mirror entities. Okay. Gosh, let's change that a little bit. I know it's not a big deal in this case, but it's just annoying me. We'll go with 0.65. There we go. Bring it in a little bit. Give it a little bit more material to work with. Okay, now we'll go to Features, Extrude Boss, and we'll make this a 1/4 inch plate and hit the green check. Okay, let's rotate this around. So you can see you can actually model stuff in, customize things. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and take a look at our weldments, and we'll see what type of things that we don't have to model, where it's pretty much automatic. Like, for example, you might want an end cap put on here. Now, an end cap could be useful for, so vermin doesn't make a nest inside there if it's in a warehouse, things like that. So let's go with end cap and set your end cap parameters here. The thickness will go with a 1/4 inch. We'll wait for corner treatment. Go ahead and just zoom up here and select this end face. Now remember, it's the end face in this corner. The reason why we're trying to keep everything isolated to this corner is because we're going to mirror everything across. So you'll see the end cap up here. Now that's kind of a short or sharp edge there. Someone walks by it in a shop, you don't want them to cut their arm open. So let's go ahead and put in a corner treatment. Now there's fillets and chamfers. Again, it's if this is being customized, all these are little details, they cost money. But anyway, let's put in 0.375 radius, so the fillet there, and hit the green check. All right, and let's rotate around that segment there on that leg. And now let's put a reinforcement gusset in here. Now go ahead and click on gusset. And you'll see there's polygonal, gusset, or just a triangular. We'll just stick with triangular. And let's go with a 4x4 for the 2 distances. And we could have it the thickness on both sides, so it's centered or offset. The gusset thickness, we'll keep it at let's make it a 1/2 inch. Let's beef it up a little bit. Okay, and then the offset and location to top the bottom of the surfaces that you select. Keep it in the middle. Select this face here and this face here, and you'll see a preview of the gusset. Boy, that's a really thick gusset. We probably don't need that. Let's go with 0.375. There we go. All right, hit the green check mark. There's our gusset. All right, so we're looking pretty good here. Now we want to put in weld beads and focus on that gusset. Let's say we want it welded inside in that place. Now you could find weld bead. All right, now this is my favorite, the smart weld. Anytime there's a smart tool, I really like them. They're there for a reason. That saves you time typically. The other method is to select each individual face that the weld is going to be contacting. But this one, you just draw a line across with it. It's pretty cool. Go ahead and select it. All right, the bead size, let's go with a 1/4 inch in this case, just a nice thick bead. And you could select tangent propagation. I think it will remember it. We don't need it right on this segment, but later on we'll need it. And all you do, watch where my pointer is. It's just right about on that surface. We want to drag it to this surface. And once it turns black, that means you got what you need, 2 surfaces. And it will put a little image in there, or a little highlight. Now we're not going to see it until we apply it. But now take a look here. We can say over here, both sides. Go ahead and select that. Don't select all around yet. Okay. And from here, we could just go ahead. We do have from and to length. All right, so if we wanted to shorten this, we could actually manually drag it. Like maybe you don't want it all the way in the corner. Just grab those arrows. Okay. We're not going to do the intermittent weld just yet. We'll see that on the next one. So go ahead and hit the green check. All right, now you probably don't see a preview here. To see it, you have to go to View, and then you have to go to Hide Show and find Weld Beads. Let's see here. There we go. It's alphabetic. Weld bead. Okay, and there you can actually see the weld bead. All right. It actually puts a note in it, so someone could read it off of a print later or right off of the model here. Now let's try that again. Go to Weld Bead once again and click on Smart Weld and drag between these two faces here. Now this one, let's try intermittent weld. Okay, and the weld bead length, let's make that 1/4 inch. And the gap, we'll make it a 1/4 inch. All right, now the stagger, typically that does turn on. I'm not sure. Oh wait, we have to turn on both sides. Go ahead and check both sides. There we go. Now go ahead and stagger it. Now in reality, we wouldn't be putting this on this little gusset, just so you know. I'm just doing this to show you the tools. Okay. All right, hit the green check mark. And there you can actually see the weld beads. Flip it over, you can see them on the underside. So there's a couple little instances there. Let's rotate around this side now. Go back to weld bead and turn on tangent propagation, smart weld, and get right here, from here to here. Okay. Now, rather than just hitting apply every time and adding a bunch of them individually, you could add them as a group. So like, let's say, let's get this rotated. Let's get one here too, from here to here. Okay. Now in this case, I should hit new weld path. See that right up there, my mistake. But it actually went to the default way where you select both surfaces. So it worked out anyhow. Okay. Let's go to new weld path. Let's do the same over here, from here to here. Let's get one over here. New weld path. Okay. And let's get one around this end. New weld path. And rotate it around. Let's get new weld path and this surface here to here. And does that cover them all? Let's see. I think we've got them. Yep. Looks good. All right. Hit the green check. All right, and there you can actually see all the weld beads. Now, in reality, do we need a 1/4 inch weld bead for that? Probably not. But again, I'm just showing you some of the tools that you could use here. Now, the interesting thing, you know, you can see it puts all these in. Now, let's take a look at some more details. Find the weld folder here on the left. Hit the little arrow to the left of it. Now, you can see there's two groups because remember, we put a lot of them together. But if you hit the little arrow to the left of it, you'll see, okay, these were the first two. Just on this little area here, okay? But hit the second one and you see all those are clustered together. Now, notice they break them out though individually. Like, let's say right here, we're like, oh, that's a really big weld bead. It's bigger than we really need. Let's find that one on the list. Just hover over them. There it is. And I'm gonna go ahead and right click on it and edit feature. And for that specific one, let's make it a 0.125 and hit the green check. All right, so we put a smaller bead on that segment and it will note it as such in the drawing later on. Another thing you could do if you click on the grouping, like right here, right click and go to properties, look at the capabilities you have here. So you have 3 different folders. For each one, you can specify the material of the weld, the weld process, the weld mass per units, welding cost per unit mass. A lot of this information, there's other videos that go into greater detail. I don't want to, there's a whole class devoted to this, like for 2 days, I believe, for Weldments. So you could learn a whole heck of a lot through the SolidWorks corporate training. We're not going to go through all those things. This is just a short little lesson for my second class. All right, so you can see there's a lot of things here. Now let's hit the little arrow to the left of cut list, and look at this. It broke out these different tubes. And what that's going to do, look at that, there's two of those it detects. It actually, whenever it's used more than once, it shows them. All right, but let's see what happens when we mirror this over to finish it up. Okay, so stay on this side here. Now, be aware you can't you can't mirror the weld beads. It's okay if it's a symmetric part anyways, because you would just call them out on one side and say like ×4, you'd put a note, or you could actually drag the arrows to the other corners. Okay, so now let's go to the Features tab. To mirror these, you just use the mirror tool. Okay, the mirror face plane, hit this little arrow up here, and let's find where we want to mirror it across first. So find the front, top, and right planes. Those are the easiest. We'll go across the right and get the right side on this one done. Now, bodies to mirror should be activated. Go ahead and select the leg, this gusset here, select the gusset over here, and the end cap. And also select the foot pad. All right, we got everything. Hit the green check. Let's do that again. Go to mirror, and this time select the front plane. Again, the benefit of drawing centered, we have the planes already there. Otherwise, you might have to create planes to mirror these things across. But being it's symmetric and it's centered, that saves us time. Okay, so bodies to mirror. Again, just go ahead and select these bodies on this side and the ones over here too. And don't forget the end caps. And you'll see the previews over here. It looks good. Hit the green check. All right, so there we have it. Now let's set it to a material. So let's bring all this information up. Now let's find out how much this is going to weigh. So to do that, find the materials. Now you can specify each material too for each part if you want it, but overall, just as the assembly, go to Edit Material. And let's pick a structural steel like ASTM 836 steel. Good structural steel. On megapascals, yield strength is 250. It's light for a steel as far as it goes. Go ahead and hit Apply and close. It also, notice it picks up the properties of that particular material visually. All right, let's save it. And we'll go ahead and save this as E26. Notice it's just a part file. But let's bring it into a drawing and see how it looks for the cut list. So we'll go to File. Oh wait, before we do that, let's find out how much it weighs. To find out how much it weighs, go to Evaluate and find the mass properties. And here we can see the mass. It's going to weigh almost 200 pounds, so 198.87 pounds. All right, let's now go to File, Make Drawing from Part. Let's go with we'll just put it on an A-size portrait, and we'll just shrink it down small so we can see it. Go ahead and hit OK. All right, let's bring in I think the trimetric, we'll grab the isometric. Go ahead and drag that up there. All right, and over here to the left, if you want, you could shade it with edges or without edges, whichever you prefer. All right, let's go back over there, find the view palette. Let's bring in the front, drag that right there, a right, and a top. And then hit Escape. Okay, if we want to see a little bit better or clearer, sometimes I like doing this, Control Select these. Those of you who've taken my classes before know this little trick, right click, tangent edge with font. When I used to work in the shop, I hated seeing everything with object lines. I'd have to go up to talk to the engineering guys and be like, hey, is this a feature? Especially when it's just a fillet, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, that makes more sense. Not on something this simple, of course, but on more complex parts. All right, so we have our table here. Let's bring up, probably should have put this on a bigger sheet because it's going to be, the Weldment cut list is going to be rather large. All right, so select one of the views. go to tables, and let's go to Weldment cut list. And over here on the left, you see there's some options you could set. You could put it on layer, text format, all uppercase. I'm going to go with all uppercase, and it looks pretty good. Let's see. We'll just use the cut list. Hit the green check. There it is. It's a little tight, but we could squeeze it in. All right, so there you can see actually the quantity of the square tube. All right, and let's now bring in some balloons. So we could go to auto balloon if we want. Click on that view, go to auto balloon, and then hit the green check. And let's just move these so they're a little bit easier to read and that they're not on top of anything. Okay, and you could also do a bill of materials, things like that. You could break this into an assembly. Again, I'm not going to go into all those features. This is just to show you that some of the capabilities on how to make it. Like I said, there's a 2-day class through SolidWorks Corporate, like through their VARs, that I would recommend if this is what you do all day. I have a student who, we learned this one day in class. He went into the company he works at, and they make these because they make automation equipment. And what's really neat is he got a job, and he does this all day, and he really likes it. He's like an expert at it, but there's a lot of neat little things in here. And that concludes this exercise.